Why does the Chinese Navy still have two Hyundai-class destroyers along with Russian-made Shkili missiles in 2025? Is it a technical bottleneck or a strategic choice? When the 055 Type 10,000 tons of large drive and 052D Chinese Divine Shield riding the ocean, the two bear the heavy responsibility of naval modernization at the beginning of the century Russian warships, but in the East China Sea Fleet quietly stationed, as if the time was frozen in 2 decades ago. Behind this paradoxical phenomenon, there is a difficult choice in the history of Chinese naval equipment development. Hidden behind this paradoxical phenomenon, China's naval equipment development history of a difficult choice. In the 1990s, the Chinese Navy is experiencing a look at the ship's eye period of pain. In the face of the Taiwan Strait crisis and the United States aircraft carrier deterrent, only the sea red flag, 7 such as the range of 15 kilometers of point air defense missiles of domestic ships, simply cannot build regional air defense network. It is against this background that the first batch of Hyundai-class destroyers introduced in 1997 were like a blessing in disguise. Equipped with the Schkili air defense system with a range of 45 kilometers and a single armed launcher, instantly expanding the radius of air defense of the Chinese fleet by 3 times. These 4 behemoths with a displacement of more than 8,000 tons not only carried the most advanced shipborne weapon systems at the time, but also marked the first time that the People's Navy had a modern warship with regional air defense capabilities. In the years when the situation in the Taiwan Strait was tense, the Hyundai-class destroyers, equipped with Nippon supersonic anti-ship missiles and Ka-28 anti-submarine helicopters, constituted the sharpest spears and shields in China's offshore defense system. The arrival of these warships coincided with a critical period in the transformation of China's military industry at the turn of the century. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Russian military-industrial system was in disarray, and the complex geopolitical game between China and Russia was hidden behind the modern class deal. When Chinese naval technicians came into contact with the Schkili air defense system, they marveled at the semi-active radar guidance technology used in its 9M38 missiles, and were also keenly aware of the flaws in firepower continuity that existed in the single-armed launcher. Top plate radar air detection range of 300 kilometers, the music stand radar to achieve over-the-horizon target indication. These key subsystems for the domestic 382 Type 3 coordinate radar and 366 Type over-the-horizon radar research and development to provide a physical reference. Particularly important is that by reverse engineering the fire control architecture of the Schkili system, the Chinese research team has successfully broken through the bottleneck of vertical launching technology for naval air missiles, laying the foundation for the birth of the subsequent HQ-16 medium-range air defense missile. It can be said that the modern class is not only a combat force generator, but also plays a key role as a technology incubator. However, with the domestic destroyer, dumpling, type construction, these former sea heavyweights gradually fell into an embarrassing situation. 2015 launched the first batch of 2 ships renovation project, exposing the Russian design in China's military system of deep integration of the deep contradiction. Technicians in the dismantling of the hull found that the internal structure of the modern class is full of Soviet characteristics of the rough design. Weighing 200 tons of a K-130 double-barreled gun base occupies a lot of space. The steam turbine power system and the compatibility of modern electronic equipment is extremely poor. The ship's 120-kilometer-long copper cable network is the information transformation of the nightmare. The 120 kilometers of copper cable network is a nightmare for information technology transformation. Although the Hangzhou ship was eventually retrofitted with a 32-unit pitot tube system and YJ-12 supersonic anti-ship missiles, the number of anti-aircraft missiles was drastically reduced from 48 to 24, and the anti-submarine weapons system was removed, making the retrofitting cost as high as 80% of the newly built 054 frigate. This kind of cutting the feet to fit the shoes type of upgrading deeply reveals the rigid constraints of the platform limitations on the enhancement of combat effectiveness. The Chinese Navy is engaged in a quiet strategic weighing of the fate of the last 2 Hyundai-class ships. At a base of the East China Sea Fleet, the crews of Ningbo and Fuzhou are still maintaining the Schkili launchers according to the established procedures, and the 9M38 missiles stored in the warehouse can maintain their operational readiness for at least 10 more years. However, the Combat Department's projection data clearly shows that in the modern battlefield environment, the 2 ships' air defense response speed is 2.4 times slower than the 052D destroyer. Anti-submarine effectiveness is only 35% of the 054A. and the ship's automation is insufficient to cause the 240-member overcrowded crew, which consumes enough extra maintenance costs to train half of a carrier aircraft squadron every year. When the Fujian Ship Carrier Battle Group needs to form a convoy, the command system will instinctively check 055 rather than modern class. Behind this choice reflects the fundamental change of the Chinese Navy's operational concept. The deeper contradiction lies in the intergenerational gap in the equipment system. The original design concept of the modern class originated from the Soviet Union Red Navy, saturation attack, tactics, and its operational concept is to rely on shore-based aviation cover to carry out close-range anti-ship assaults. This kind of Cold War thinking, and the current, systematic combat, distributed killing, of modern naval warfare mode has been out of place. Schkili system: each shot needs 6 seconds to reload. The mechanical action in the face of supersonic anti-ship missiles is tantamount to suicide behavior, while the 052D cold and hot common frame drogue system can be completed within 1 second of multiple missiles launched continuously. More critically, the modern class lacks the ability to collaborate in combat, cannot be integrated into the 055 as the command node of the Maritime Combat Network, which is equivalent to tactical deafness on the information battlefield. The cruelty of the economic account cannot be ignored. Naval Equipment Department calculations show that the cost of maintaining 2 modern-class annual combat readiness, including the procurement of Russian-made accessories, special ammunition maintenance and hull inspection expenses, equivalent to about 320 million yuan, which is equivalent to 2056 A-type corvette's full life cycle costs. In the military spending growth into the new normal background, policymakers have to consider the limited resources to electromagnetic artillery, laser anti-missile, shipborne hypersonic weapons and other cutting-edge areas. Tilt even once proud of the Japanese hot missiles. In the YJ-21 hypersonic anti-ship missile range of 2,000 kilometers of comparison, but also completely reduced to yesterday's flowers. The paradox of history is that it is the technological revelations brought about by the modern class that have accelerated the process of its own obsolescence. When the Schkili system to demonstrate the ability of regional air defense, to promote China to establish a complete spectrum of shipborne air defense missiles, concertina radar over-the-horizon detection principle, spawned a more advanced dual-band radar technology, and even the CARD-28 anti-submarine helicopter operating experience for the development of the Z-20 naval type of data, provided by the invaluable data. This dialectical development of learning from the barbarians to control the barbarians has enabled China to complete the half-century equipment evolution path of Western countries in just 2 decades. Now, when the 25th 052D launched, the once powerful modern class has been completed from the technical mentor to reform sample role conversion. Standing at the 2025 time point to look back, the fate of the modern class is exactly the Chinese Navy leapfrog development of the epitome. When the rusty Schkili launcher and the brand new shiny general-purpose drogue system are in the same frame, it seems to unfold a volume of mobile equipment development history. These steel giants have witnessed the yellow water navies toddling towards blue water, experienced the thrill of the crisis in the straits, and finally read their own historical orientation in the majestic posture of the Fujian ship cutting through the waves. When the last 9 M38 missile from the Ningbo ship on the rail-fated oil seal, the East China Sea, a military port of the morning sun, is not only the old equipment decommissioning horn, but also a big country's navy to the deep blue, into the strong sound of the times.